Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the brand new Inflow and On Fire podcast. I'm your host, Quinn Curtis, and I am so excited for this journey that we're embarking on together with the conversations and the topics that we'll be covering in this podcast. For our very first episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about what the concept of inflow and on fire means to me. This has actually been a mantra of mine that I've repeated and lived by for many, many years. And it's evolved over time as to what it's meant. And there was a season a couple of years ago, I'm recording this in 2023, where I was actually teaching an inflow on fire course and workshop. I've taught this workshop both personally to coaching clients and people I was mentoring. I've taught it online. I've also taught it in corporate settings and helping corporate teams to draw out their goodness and be able to work together in more successful ways. So this concept has been a very flexible concept. It's been one that's really helped people in a lot of different ways. And the concept has also evolved for me. Just if you're watching this on YouTube or the video version, you can see I'm holding up, I even printed an Inflow on Fire workbook when I was teaching this as a course. And this was a big, beautiful project of how to actually bring your brand and your business and your way of operating within those spaces into more of an inflow and on fire space. And as my journey has evolved, and I am just looking at how do we live good lives? How do we be the very best that we can be? How do we bring more goodness into this world? The concept of inflow on fire has definitely evolved for me. And so what I'm seeing now in reflection is that the concept of inflow and on fire used to be a how to get what you want kind of strategy with some really good, beautiful truths mixed into it, as well as concepts that I just didn't fully understand or appreciate. So I would teach people how to find and draw out their own unique strengths and genius zones so that they could make more money and find more fulfillment in life. And maybe that's a strong first step, but my life philosophy has shifted so much from focusing on going after and getting what I want to instead living in alignment with life and being deeply present and receiving the gift that life freely gives me each day. And so as I've just looked out over the years, I've helped so many different types of people over my career path as a brand strategist and a marketing expert and executive. And I have, seen so many people just wanting really beautiful things, wanting to create and bring a lot of goodness into the world. And I've been helping them on more of a, hey, how do we get this baby out into the world, get you out doing your business, get some marketing so people can see it. And that has been really aligned for a long time. But it's just shifting so much for me right now because I'm seeing that there's a deeper issue. If you can believe it, I have worked with beautiful, incredible people who have invested tens of thousands of dollars in having me help brand and market their businesses. And they have been so stuck in the fears, the insecurities within themselves that they have never published those websites that they paid for me to create, my team to create, and those brands. And so it's just become so real to me that the inner game is really what's driving so much of the success of bringing things from our heart out into the world and making a difference. And that's where I'm feeling more called to show up and serve. And one of the key concepts that has really struck me over the years is just recognizing that as a society, we are very much in survival mode most of the time, if not all the time. And what I've seen over the years, especially as I've really leaned into and studied genius that's within each of us, by the way, and even the origins of talent. And, do some people have talent and some people don't? And the answer is no, everybody has talent. Everybody has genius. Everybody has magic within themselves. And so what we see, instead of us actually drawing out that genius and bringing it to solve the world's problems and make the world a better place, we see most of us staying very stuck in survival mode, in our little boxes that we've created or we feel like society has put on us, or our families, or whatever our situation may be. And so I feel like there's this bigger issue that even Mother Teresa talked about in one of her autobiographies, was that she was saying that in the Eastern world, that the poverty that she experienced there was very easy to support, and she could serve it very well. It was just give a loaf of bread, give a hug, give a safe place to sleep, connect people with basic resources, right? And she saw people receive those things and feel true gratitude and feel alive and connected to life and abundant even and grateful. And then she saw that the poverty that we experience in the Western world, she said she didn't even dare to touch. And I've thought about this for years, ever since reading that. And I really feel like a major reason why that poverty even exists, why so many of us are just racked with anxiety and stress and depression, why suicide rates are skyrocketing and so high, especially for our youth, is there's so much of our everyday life where we are, if you look at the amount of good things that we have in our world that's meant to help us, like dishwashing machines and cars and computers and internet and all sorts of amazing things that are saving us time and helping us connect and doing all these things, why does it seem that we're less and less fulfilled and less happy? Right. And so there's a lot of issues of why that exists. And we'll be talking about a lot of those on this podcast just to bring light to them, because as soon as we see it, then we can't fall in that trap again. But one of the things that I see is that when we are in these little boxes, this captivity that we keep ourselves in, or that society places us in, sometimes we're in actual physical circumstances that are very much a captivity circumstance. It actually trains us, just like an elephant who, when it's little, they tie a chain around its ankle that's short, and they train it up to see, hey, look, you can't escape. So then when the elephant gets a lot bigger and it actually could pull out of that chain, it believes it can't escape. And so it just stays put. And so it's so similar for those of us where our situations of the captivity, the stories that we believe in ourselves about what life is about, what we can actually have, what we deserve, any of those things that are keeping us stuck in well, this is just the way it is. And even though I have this big dream or this idea, I can't do it. Or, I don't have the support. I don't have the possibilities. So often it's stories in our head. It's this survival mode that is truly primarily internal. And what I've seen time and time again is as we get out of that internal survival mode, then the way opens up in our outer world for us to be able to bring the things that we're wanting to bring out into the world and actually, do it. And so I'm fascinated by this subject, and this is a major part of what I'm excited to dive into on this podcast, is just what gets us in this survival mode, what gets us in this captivity in our minds, what gets us in these places where we feel very stuck, like we don't have options and our dreams don't matter, and we just need to survive life, right? Or survive the next day. And how do we break free of that? How do we actually break free out of captivity into more of a space of alignment and peace and connection with life and gratitude with life? I've seen over the years that some of the very best things in my life have not come because I forced and planned them into existence. Some of them started as little seeds that came in their own season and time, and they never would have come if I had forced them. And some of them came as unanswered prayers and what I didn't think I wanted. One of those things is I happen to be a mother of 5 children, which is a lot of fun. And honestly, I had my 5 children back when I was in a captivity kind of a space with my religious belief system at the time, believing that that was what I had to do in order to be righteous, in order to be a good person. And so I never had wanted to be a mom. It was not my dream at all. In fact, my dream is very career oriented. And so it was, here again, had I gotten exactly what I wanted, I wouldn't have my insanely incredible 5 children that are, my everything right now. And so I'm grateful for that. And so I'm just learning to surrender a lot more into, hey, here's what I think would be cool for my life, and having the courage to show up for it, the courage to be open-minded and flexible enough to let it in, and also to keep that back door open for something better, right? Something better to happen. And so that's a piece of what inflow and on fire means. So inflow to me means in flow with life. It's all about aligned living, enjoying the flow of your life, a space of non-resistance, moving with life gracefully and gratefully. And with that, being in flow with the seasons and natural rhythms of each day and month and year, and remembering that we're a part of nature. We're a part of this life that's happening all around us, outside our window or within our homes. It's happening all around us. And some of that disconnection with life comes from a deep lack of trust with life. And so instead of trusting our life and being in flow with life, we try to control and manipulate outcomes instead. And especially do this because of defining what success looks like as something that's a definition we got from outside of us, like what the world gave us or our parents. And instead of actually defining success from within us as like what makes you come alive, which connects in with the second part of in flow with life, and then on fire. I would say on fire looks like on fire with love, just like a love for life, feeling that divine spark inside of yourself, feeling joy, clear in your power, inspired, connected with your life force, feeling that genius, and even one of my favorite words, enthusiasm for life. The word enthusiasm comes from 2 really cool roots, the word in and theos, which means in God or in the divine, right? Enthusiasm by being fully in the divine, in love with life, right? This brings up one of my favorite quotes from Howard Thurman that has been such a guiding force in my life of don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And so I'm so pumped to have these conversations about how do we live more in flow and on fire? Why would we want that? Why should we care? And, one of those reasons being that when we're in this kind of survival mode of life, even if we're coping really well with it, even if we feel like, we've got this figured out and things are going really well for us, there still can be this fear of not getting what we want and trying to avoid what we don't want. And this fear of, what if we get what we don't want and we don't ever get what we want? Like there's this inner struggle that can be happening all the time. And there's this way of orienting our life where we're just constantly trying to avoid things we don't want and get what we want in every day of our life, even if it's very, very subconscious way of living. And so it's, it turns it into, instead of having a life, it turns it into a struggle. We have a struggle every day. I loved this quote from Abraham Hicks. And I'll post the link to the full video in the show notes because I think it's worth a listen. And she says it so well. She says, you think it's your hard work that's wearing you out, but it's not. It's you resisting the flow and not being in flow with life. Chills, right? So, so powerful. So as we lean into just aligning our lives with, I'm going to be in flow with life. I'm going to align myself to the goodness that life has in store. I'm going to align myself to be open with my arms open wide, my heart open wide to life and the adventure and the beauty and the incredible experience that it is each and every single day. And how do I live more on fire, where I'm clear and I'm aligned and I have a sense of purpose and fulfillment and joy and magic in my life? So the intention of this show is for you to join me in the practice of living in flow and on fire. And I have a really strong belief that most of life, if not all of life, is a practice and not a perfect. I just don't know that there's many things that we can get perfect at in life. I can't think of anything actually. Maybe we can be perfect at dying, right? Everybody's going to die and we're all going to do it 100%. But outside of that, everything else that we can do in between that time, it seems to me to be a practice. And so one of the things I've taught over the years that is an important concept to remember is that, for example, if you go to a yoga class, you don't go to yoga and learn from the teacher and do what they are telling you to do because they're perfect at yoga. You go to that class and you connect and you listen to them because they're in the practice of yoga. They've practiced it a lot. And so they have a lot of wisdom to share and offer to you. And so with every conversation that I offer on this episode, think of it as your mental, emotional yoga class of coming to your practice of in flow and on fire living. Because I am definitely not perfect at this. There's going to be a lot of things I'm excited to explore with you and consider with you and look at. And there's a lot of things that I will show you and tell you where it's going to be, hey, I've studied this for years and I can't see a better way. This seems like the best strategy, the best skill, the best hack. And I'll definitely be sharing those things. But above all, please remember that listening and connecting with this podcast is meant to be an activation for you. It's meant to be a reminder of you coming into greater connection with your own heart and soul and feeling that spark and enthusiasm, that boost and reminder to listen to yourself and to value what's in your heart and to have the courage to be brave with your life and be open to the magic and the possibility and the incredible things that could be available to you and are available to you each and every single day. So I'm excited to dive into this conversation more. I'm hoping that the stories you hear on this show and the concepts will inspire you to break free from your own captivity. We all have so many places where we are still stuck and have those captivity places. And I know that the more and more we get out of captivity, I believe the captivity inside of ourselves, let's remember, right? If we get out of our own heads and we get back into our hearts and into our bodies and into our lives, I think it's going to open up this incredible space where suddenly we'll have all this room and freedom to show up to serve the world and serve those around us and help lift burdens and make the world a lighter, brighter, happier, safer, more peaceful place. But it starts with getting out of that captivity inside of ourselves. There's just no sustainable solution that we can create from within our own spaces of captivity. We're not going to see the solutions that are right there for us. And we're going to be surprised often by the types of things that we are inspired to do in our lives. And it may not always seem like it just makes perfect sense. And we might be thinking, well, how could that really make the world a better place? But one of the key concepts that I'd love for you to take away is just that, there is such power in recognizing and honoring your dreams. Something that's been really on my mind with this subject is the concept of indifference. And I'll just leave you with this as we close this session. That indifference is the real enemy. It's the diffusion of responsibility. I love in the book, The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, he talks about indifference in this way. He quotes the Holocaust survivor and writer Elie Wiesel, who said, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it's indifference." And indifference is all about getting you to focus your precious time and life force on the inessential. The inessential is anything that takes your attention away from the present moment and its limitless potential. As long as you're focused on the inessential, you will be indifferent to the things in life that really matter. And As an example, you talk about the vast majority of the world lives in poverty, whilst a select few thrive, is a testament to the power of indifference, which sucks all the life out of the world, because human beings are not willing to stand up and be different. They become willing to sit by the side of life and observe. This common human pattern is known as the diffusion of responsibility, and refuse to the human preponderance to look away when confronted by another in distress, often when there are a number of other people in the same vicinity. Indifference is an energy field created by all the human beings on this planet who are not doing what they would really love to be doing. The only reason for this state is fear. Whoever you are and whatever your life circumstances, if you transcend your fear, you will suddenly become so much more capable than you were before. To break out of the field of indifference is to make the courageous move deep into your own fears and overcome the lethargy that prevents you from making something truly beautiful in your life. The moment you take a stand and begin to follow your dreams, time becomes your ally rather than your enemy, automatically adapting itself to fit your needs. So this is where we're going. We want to get through this power of indifference, this force within us and outside of us that makes us think that we can't make things better, that we can't actually see our dreams come to reality, that we can't have the life that we've been dreaming of and desiring. And I'm hoping, as you keep showing up to this practice, that we'll be able to break through together, and that you'll find yourself feeling inspired and capable and courageous. So please continue to join me on this journey, and I'm so grateful you're here.